Hello, everybody. Welcome to the I Learn, Therefore I Am channel. I'm Hugo Marins, and today we are going to talk about incremental reading in simple terms. We'll talk about an incremental journey and answer to the question why should you try Incremental Everything Plugin for RemNote? Well, we know that everything regarding learning begins with reading. There are plenty of information sources like books, PDFs, internet sites, class notes, YouTube videos, and you need, in order to have access to these information, you will read, you will watch these videos. So if you develop a pleasure in reading and learning, you are already ahead of many people in this world. But soon you will realize that you need to go a step further. And if you're going to talk about a learning technique that is indisputable, the most important one for your learning, this one would be active recall. If you learn in your learning process, to use active recall instead of passive rereading, you gain a lot of value in your effectiveness in learning. So you can use questions and answers, flashcards, and so on to make things, to retrieve what you have just learned from your memory, from your mind, before you go ahead. Instead of just passively sit and read, you will know that bringing things from memory out is more important than bringing things in the learning process. Also, another very important technique to bring effectiveness to your learning process, is spaced repetition. Is establishing a learning schedule. In opposition to mass preps, where you take some time, let's say 5 hours, and in a massive manner, you read a chapter, you read a section, you study a subject. If you take the same amount of time and spread it over a little days or weeks or months, you will achieve much higher effectiveness in your learning. It has been proved, this space and effect has been proved long ago. Sadly, it's not yet spread in the learning environment in schools and universities, but if you add spaced repetition to your learning, you made a great leap forward. The third important technique is interleaving, learning things in parallel in opposition to blocking things. So let's say you have three skills to develop. Skill one being math, skill two being physics, skill three being biology. Instead of in the first day only stud math, in the second day only stud physics, and in the third day only stud, I don't even remember what I said, but instead of doing this in a blocked manner, you should spread it over time. You should study many subjects in parallel, and you will be achieving space in effect, and you will be bringing things to a variety of contexts. It will help you to answer the the question of not just how to apply certain technique, but when to apply certain technique. But even if you already use spaced repetition software like RemNote, and therefore in your review process has already incorporated spaced repetition, active recall, and interleaving, in your learning journey, you may reach a point where you have doubts on how to answer this question: what to learn. You probably have something like a to-do list. You have learning demands like you have to read book A, to read article B, to watch video C. What to learn next? What should be my next step? How to handle all these learning demands. Manual handling of this type, here you can see that we have a to-do list. RemNote has to do in it. Uh, Manually handling of this type can do the job for a few dozens of items. But as your collection grows, your learning demandings grow, you maybe you feel that it's not sufficient. You can have to-do lists, you can have tables, properties to help you tackle these things, but answering these questions of what to learn next is not an easy thing to do, even if you already use flashcards in apps like RemNote. When the to-do list or the learning schedule or the calendar are not enough, when you face overload and you have too much to tackle, what happens when you lose control of a large backlog of to-do items? Where should you start? At this point, you see that a to-do list is not sufficient because it focuses on the product. Focusing on the product will bring you frustration and is not the right approach for your learning. Instead, you should focus on the process. What do I mean by this? What are the products? The products are reading book A, reading article B, watching video C, processing, creating flashcards, all the things that you can check in your to-do list. These are products. You should not measure your learning progress by these products checks. Rather, you should focus on your process of learning and have an effective and pleasurable process of learning. To-do lists fail because they focus on product. What the to-do list lack? Well, first of all, it lacks prioritization. Not all your learning demands have the same importance. You should be able to manage what is most important first to dedicate more time to this and yet have other demands of lower priority and tackle these things in a satisfactory manner. A to-do list doesn't help you here. A to-do list does not have a conveyor belt. It does not have a belt that will deliver to you packages of what you should do next, what you should learn now. All the time you face the pressure of deciding what to study next. This brings decision fatigue and stress to your learning process. To-do lists also fail in that they do not provide for your learning acquisition the space and effect, the interleaving effect that we saw beforehand. They are so important for your learning. Are you effectively using interleaving and space and effect to your advantage in your knowledge acquisition? Maybe you are doing this only in your knowledge review. When you try to hold things in memory for life for the long term, you are applying these techniques, but not in knowledge acquisition. This is when the to-do list fail to do the job you need. And this is when you will reach a point in your learning journey in which you will feel the need for an alternative approach. This approach would be incremental learning, incremental reading. Incremental reading will make you a warrior, well armed for the battle of learning. The environment of learning is many times a chaotic environment. Many learning demands, exams, books to read, of diverse, of various subjects, and deciding what to do next, what are the next steps, are not easy things. You need to be like this warrior here. This is a learning warrior. He has to have weapons to tackle with this chaotic environment and to optimize challenging situations. Incremental reading is a comprehensive toolkit to make the best of the worst, to make the most of a difficult situation, of a difficult learning environment. It will bring to you defensive and offensive weapons. It will help you defend yourself against forgetting. We can see here the forgetting curve, first enunciated by Herman Ebbinghaus. You know that if you don't review things in time, you will forget. Incremental reading will apply these to you. And it also brings offensive weapons to help you to attack intelligently to conquer new fields of knowledge in time, the right proportion. In summary, it will mean to you more structured and less brute force in your learning process. Incremental reading is therefore the process that will leverage your learning. It will make focusing on the process instead of the product second nature, building a process that is both pleasurable and effective. No need for the pressure of an implacable to-do list or an inflexible and impossible to achieve schedule. Stress go away, pleasure returns. Incremental reading will set an environment for all seasons of learning. In learning, you have to read, you have to understand. There's a time for instruction, recalling, applying, exploring, everything. There is a time for every of these aspects in incremental reading. Like King Solomon said more than 3,000 years ago, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. The wisdom is to know when to do each thing. Incremental reading will help you to do this in your learning process. What is the philosophy of incrementalism? In other words, why the word incremental in incremental reading? Well, the summary is this: do everything in small steps and enjoy every step. We need to overcome the fetish of completion. We live in a society where we're educated in a manner that we are too much focused on the product and finishing things and checking to-do lists. Even brilliant minds like Bill Gates has this frame set, this mindset. He said that he explicitly state that he has a strict rule to finish every book he starts, even if even if he ends up disliking it. It's a kind of a compulsive rule. So he's even very careful about which books he chooses to begin because he does not accept not ending a book he begins to read. In an interview he gave in 2017, he said, quote, I refuse to stop reading a book in the middle, even if I don't like it. Talking about the book Infinite Jest, he told, it's quite long and complicated, and I don't want to make an exception. It's my rule to get to the end. This is the mindset of our society. We learn things this way. But if you take some time to consider, there is something insidious about that. Because even if a book is good, it may be filled with stuff that you have already read, that you already know, that you don't need right now. So why to go further? Wouldn't it be more effective to reach other material that you need now, that you don't read yet? When you realize that the process is what matters and not the product, you can put aside this pitfall and avoid and overcome this fetish of completion. You don't need to complete everything you start when dealing with learning. The one memory, one action principle that is kind of the number one rule of incremental reading is that you should neither to spend too much time nor too little time on one single item. There is the right measure. And the referee of when you should press next and jump to the next stop is your pleasure. Learning must be pleasurable to be the most effective. If you are not in the mood, if you are tired of a subject, The best thing that you to to increase the efficiency of your learning and not to harm your learning is to skip it. You will have other opportunities to tackle with that material. You don't have to do that now. Also, in the philosophy of incrementalism, there is the notion that you should build the foundations first. New knowledge can always be built upon these foundations later. The third rule of formulating knowledge of Piotr Wozniak, the author of Supermemo and also the creator of Incremental Reading. The third rule is build, build upon the basics. Sometimes you reach a material and you maybe be able to grasp just the basics, just a nomenclature, just a definition, just a very basic thing. And you press next and you jump to another topic. It will be presented to you later. Maybe it will take sometimes some months until you can get to the point, to the main point of an article, but you are building the foundation. Maybe you need even to import other material to give you knowledge that is prerequisite for that book, for that article, and you don't have. So build the foundations first. Things can take time. It should not bring you preoccupation. So incremental reading will help you avoid some pitfalls that you can have in your learning journey. The first one being a strong appetite for flashcard creation, what has been called for many people unkifying things. You take a book, you take a chapter, and you want to unkify everything, to turn it into question and answers, close deletions, and create flashcards of everything out there. The problem is not to unkify things, but is when you are unkifying each thing. If you take an article and unkify everything there, it will probably be unsustainable in the long run because each flashcard you create is a compromise, is a marriage. You see that flashcard many times in your journey, or at least sometimes. It will impose a burden upon you, so you have to intelligently choose which flashcards to create. This strong appetite for flashcard creation can be avoided if you correctly apply incremental learning to your learning process. Another pitfall, well, before this, you incremental reading will help you to fine tune the right measure of which flashcard to create in each time. You will find a compromise solution whereby learning demands on one side will be balanced against your available time and your learning priorities. You will not be able to unkify everything you want to learn. There is a time for everything under the heaven. Maybe it's not time now to unkify that specific phrase, that specific paragraph, and you have to have this wisdom to have an effective learning. Another pitfall related to this first one is reading and making flashcards immediately. Let's go back to the 20 rules of formulating knowledge of Piotr Wozniak that we have already referred. The very first rule says do not learn if you do not understand. The second rule says learn before you memorize. So you should give yourself time to figure out what is important before starting the flashcard creation. This pitfall can be avoided if you correctly apply incremental reading. Two other pitfalls, one in each extreme, is to apply too much effort in retaining knowledge. That is, you have a large backlog of flashcards, maybe 20,000 flashcards. You will pass months just reviewing flashcards and not advancing a single paragraph in your learning material. What will happen? It will probably destroy your motivation. It will create in you a sensation of lack of advance. And learning itself is not be pleasurable anymore. Maybe it will ruin everything and you will stop using flashcards altogether. Why? Because of the wrong approach of too much effort in retaining knowledge. Another error is to put too much effort in knowledge acquisition. Oh, I want to learn everything. I want to Anquify everything I see, every book, etc., etc. But you do not have time to review these things, to set those things to the long-term memory. Well, what will you feel? You will be in this situation, knowledge in, knowledge out. At the very pace, at the same pace that you have knowledge coming in your mind, you see knowledge going out from your mind. It will bring you a sensation of time being lost, incapacity, and may ruin your whole learning progress. So avoid this pitfall using incremental reading. The final trap is the urgency trap. Oh, this is urgent. I have to see this now. I have to see this for next week. You are always like a firefighter, constantly reacting to immediate schedule demands rather than making progress toward larger goals that require maybe sustained effort and time. You should not be only firefighting. You should have the ability to plan where you want to be in the middle, in the long term. Incremental reading will help you to do this in your learning. This little bit of theory and philosophy maybe appear complex, but when we go to the practice, we can see incremental reading in simple terms. When we are in RemNote, what is incremental reading in practice? It was a marriage between the queue. We're very used to the queue where we review your flashcards and the editor where you read things, you process your notes, you take notes, you create flashcards, and so on. These environments that happen to be very separated and isolated in RemNote, now they are going to live together. Learning new things and keeping old things are now linked into a single comprehensive process. You will establish a given sorting criteria where there will be a flashcard ratio. Let's say you have 6 flashcards for every incremental RAM. What is an incremental RAM? It's a piece of passive reading. It's bringing the acquisition process to the queue. So let's say when it's time for an incremental RAM, you have this piece of this PDF here. You will read parts of this PDF and you will start a process of decrease in complexity of this material through something called extract. What is it? Extract is a highlight, is something that caught your attention that you think is important in whatever you are reading. You will highlight it and extract it. These extracts will be turned into independent units. So imagine a book. You are reading this book. You think this paragraph is important. You will make an extract of it and it will be a single unit, an independent unit that will have a proper schedule and a proper treatment. This process of extracting goes on until a simple unit information is reached. Not always the first time you make an extract when you're reading a book, you'll be the last one. Maybe when you reach that extract in the next repetition, you will have to break it even more until you reach very simple units of information. Let's see an example. Suppose I'm learning this book, Make It Stick. This chapter here, claims we make in this book. When you're first reading this paragraph about retrieval practice calls your attention. You will so extract it. As we said, it will be an independent unit, what we call an incremental RAM, And according to its priority and next repetition date, it will eventually come to you in the queue. So when it comes to you in the queue, you have this full paragraph here. But maybe the second time you came to the conclusion that only the first half of that paragraph has valuable information that needs to be treated more carefully. So you make another extract and you are now creating another independent unit. In another repetition, according to the priority you attribute and your availability of time, etc., you will eventually reach this half paragraph here. But it's about retrieval practice. It tells that retrieval practice, recalling factor concepts or events from memory, is a more effective learning strategy than reviewing by rereading. It tells that flashcards are simple as that. An example that retrieval strengthens the memory and interrupts forgetting, and so on. Well, it's still a complex unit. You will have to break it even more. So you will create extracts of these extracts until you have raw facts, raw phrases, raw information units. Let's see this example. 1. Retrieval practice means recalling facts or concepts or events from memory. Well, now this extract is in its final form. Second, retrieval practice is a more effective learning strategy than reviewing by rereading. Good. Another information. Flashcards are a simple example of retrieval practice. Another raw information. Retrieval strengthens the memory and interrupts forgetting, and so on. Maybe not all of these things you see that you need to extract. But if you imagine these things are going to be important, you will extract until you reach this single unit, this single information. You cannot make flashcards. You should not make flashcards on complex units. You should extract until you reach to a unit of information that you want to retain in your memory. So we talked about the marriage of flashcards and incremental reading, that is passive rereading through these sorting criteria you will establish. Sometimes you see incremental reading, passive reading. This passive reading, you engage in it making extracts. This extract process will keep going until you reach a simple unit, simple information, and afterwards you can start the process of making flashcards of things that you'll not remember, things you realize you will not remember just by simply reading. You will have to rediscover the value of close deletions or fill in the blanks. It's easy to do and it's effective. It was the fifth rule of the 20 rules of formulating knowledge. I know that in RemNote you have a bunch of schemes for flashcards like concept descriptor framework that works very well, but you should not despise the close deletion. It's simple and it's effective. And you should have an incremental generation. You do not want to start and finish all flashcards of a phrase, of a sentence, of a piece of information all at once. You do not have to do this. Let's see an example. Example 1. We saw beforehand that I came to this extract in the final form, saying retrieval practice means recalling factor concepts or events from memory. Well, when I reach this final form extract, I know, yes, I have reduced the complexity. Now it's ready to begin the flashcard creation process. You should not create everything at once. Maybe the first information, the most relevant one, will be the retrieval practice. You want to have this name with you. You could use a closed deletion for this. Maybe you use a more elegant way in a RemNote, a concept, create a concept, but only the backward. I don't want to have many things yet. Only the backward card will be created. Why a concept? Because it will be easier to make links afterwards. So the first time I reach this extract in the final form, I will make a single flashcard, a concept flashcard in the backward direction. Afterwards, in another situation, in another occasion, maybe I'll be presented this very same extract again. Then I'll say, well, retrieval practice, I already know because that flashcard I already entered my queue. I already know it. Maybe there's something else. Maybe this word recall is a word that I want to keep. I won't make a forward direction flashcard. It will be to open. Retrieval practice may be many things. All that I think that is important is this word recalling, this keyword here. So you will create in this other situation, in this other event, in this other occasion, the second flashcard. Maybe it's okay. You apply done. You won't create more any flashcards from this sentence anymore. Let's see another example. Another extract in the final form appears to you. It says, retrieval practice is a more effective learning strategy than review by rereading. Maybe the first time you are presented, all that you do is link it with other knowledge you already have to see where it fits in your big picture, in your knowledge structure. So you make a link to the retrieval practice concept that you have created beforehand. That's all. I don't want to create flashcards yet. Maybe I'll came to the conclusion with time that I don't need a flashcard here. But when this same extract is presented again, maybe you still think that you need to close this retrieval practice part, keyword here, and you create this single flashcard on this occasion. Then in another situation, when this first flashcard is already ingrained in your mind, when it has already entered your queue and been reviewed, maybe you see, well, another flashcard from this same piece of information from this same extract is interesting. Maybe the word pre-reading. I, I want to have it right at hand, ready at hand. The overall idea that I'm trying to bring here is that you should not amplify all the information you see at once. Do things incrementally, step by step. Create one flashcard, let it go, it will appear to you in the queue again according to its priority. It will eventually appear. If it do not appear, no problem. You probably have already what's most important from that piece of information. Why close deletions? Close deletions achieve very well the minimum information principle that more than a stylistic suggestion is a necessary algorithmic requirement, computational and algorithmic requirement for an effective scheduling of information. If you have minimal information in the back of your cards, you will ensure that your brain will work always in the same way when retrieving that information. This way, you will have a very low lapse rate and your schedule will not be filled with, with leeches that come over again and again because you fail them because the information is too complex to recall. So close deletions, go to the root, situate the root problem. They will recover a single keyword, a single key idea. It's easier to schedule, and believe me, it's effective. I'm not saying that you cannot use questions and answers, concept descriptor framework, but maybe to start the story, A single or maybe two or three close deletions made incrementally of a piece of information are going to be more than enough. That's it. That's what incremental reading in RemNote is. On another occasion, you'll see how to use the plugin itself, but I, I, I hope I could convince you to at least give a try in using this plugin and implementing incremental reading in your learning journey. Thank you for being with us today. See you next time.